Last summer, I was here at Lucid's San Francisco Bay Area headquarters, and I was having a first glimpse of the Lucid Air Sedan, and also interviewing Lucid CEO Peter Rawlinson. Today, I'm back at the same building, but this time I get a ride in this. This is one of Lucid's beta prototype vehicles. We are the very first automotive journalists and the very first YouTube channel to get a ride along in this beta prototype. It was made on the production line in Arizona. There are other prototypes that have been made after it, the Gamma prototypes. Those are the closest to production, but they're so busy going through a whole load of testing right now that they're like hen's teeth. Really difficult to get hold of. Luckily though, Lucid said that we can ride in this one. And that's what we're going to do today. The very first on-camera ride-along of a Lucid Air beta prototype. It is almost production ready, but as we're about to find out, it's still a very impressive car. So this is David. David, why don't you tell us your role at Lucid?
Sure. I'm Associate Director for Chassis and Vehicle Dynamics here, so everything: suspension, steering, braking, wheels, tyres, vehicle dynamics.
And rumour has it you're a pretty hot test driver as well.
I don't know about that.
All right, well let's take it out and we'll chat on the way. So you used to be a Jaguar Land Rover, which seems to be a bit of a theme here at Lucid.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I guess you get people and they bring in people who they know are very good. I think Jaguar Land Rover has a very strong engineering base that we've managed to draw from. A lot of people kind of get a very good grounding there.
Yeah.
Obviously they produce world-class vehicles, so yeah, we want people who are capable of producing world-class vehicles.
And this is certainly not disappointing.
It's good to hear.
Let's take it for a ride.
Great. This is, as you will notice, very prototype still.
Now this is what you call a beta prototype.
Yes, this is our Beta 2, or Beta 2 in American.
It's alright, we're two Brits, we can use the Queen's English here, that's allowed.
Great. So this is a kind of a generation older than we're producing right now.
Right.
So there are a few things on the car that aren't quite production intent, but it's kind of in the high 90%, not
right.
90-something percent there.
So one of the things that I think a lot of people don't realise is that by the time a car reaches production, by the time it's rolling off a production line, there's a lot of extra stuff that goes into making sure that the vehicle actually performs as it's supposed to.
Absolutely.
Now, you were telling me earlier that this has got the smaller battery pack in it. It's not got the maximum battery capacity. But it's still a pretty beefy car in terms of performance, isn't it?
It is, yeah, it is. The battery and the drive units, the complete powertrain package is all designed, engineered, and built in-house. So it's a very power dense, it's a very energy dense system, which really does let us kind of take a step on from where the industry is right now in terms of performance. Yeah, it's potent, to say the least.
And you can feel that. Whoa, there you go. Wow.
So we're at about 60% of maximum torque and power at the moment.
Right. Talk to me about the power delivery there. Did I feel a bit of torque vectoring going on there as we came around the corner?
You may have.
Yeah, okay.
You may have, yeah. We, I think we're not fully disclosing quite yet what we're doing.
Right.
But yeah, there are some pretty
clever
technologies.
Tricks. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, yeah.
And I could, obviously with an EV, the biggest challenge is getting the power to the road.
Yeah.
And then making sure that that power stays exactly where it needs to be without breaking traction.
Absolutely. Yeah, you've got these competing requirements or desires with an EV. So we have all this power available and torque available, at the same time, we want fairly skinny, fairly lean, low rolling resistance tyres for range, for efficiency reasons. So the two kind of traditionally don't go together that well. So it definitely gives us challenges for, as you say, how we manage that traction. That's an area where we've had to do a lot of work. We are at launch offering two different tyre options. There's a 21-inch wheel that comes with a summer tyre, and then there is a 19-inch wheel that comes with an all-season low rolling resistance, which is a great tyre. It is fantastic, but doesn't quite offer the grip levels of a summer tyre.
Right.
And that's where these challenges come in, really. You have two different tyre specs on a vehicle that has the same powertrain, has north of 1,000 horsepower, more torque than you could possibly wish for. And yeah, we've had our work cut out in kind of taming that and making sure that it always behaves in a way that you want it to and you expect it to. So a lot of work has gone into that over the past 3, 4, 5 years. We're in a good place. There's still work to be done, for sure, but I can show you in a little bit where we're at right now, and yeah, it's very impressive.
So in terms of suspension, I'm very impressed at how smooth this car is behaving on roads that I drove down about 40 minutes ago in my Chevrolet Bolt, and the car was jumping up and down.
Yeah.
So keeping that very premium ride feels like, how close is that to production status?
We're getting there. As I mentioned, this car is a generation behind where we're at now. So it's not quite offering the same levels that our most recent prototypes are. But as you can feel, we're in a pretty good place. We've been targeting the Mercedes S-Class as our ride benchmark. And that's primarily what this vehicle is about. It's about luxury and comfort and refinement.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we have this incredible powertrain.
Yeah.
So we have the performance available. So we want to make the most of that at the same time. So we're trying to kind of, and I think succeeding in giving the car this duality of character.
Right.
So we're in comfort mode right now. It allows a fair bit of body motion. It lets the car breathe.
We hit a really big bump back there, and the car just kind of gently soaked it up.
Yeah. So we have semi-active dampers here from Bilstein, top of the line semi-active damper system. So we've calibrated that to let the car breathe over these quite big road inputs. We have very good primary ride, those larger vehicle motions, and the secondary ride, the kind of high frequency kind of pitter patter you get over this kind of surface. I think we're doing a good job of really refining that. That's been a big target, trying to kind of take out as much of the road texture as possible. I'm hitting the traffic now. Maybe this wasn't such a good route, but so yeah, I talked about this duality of character. That's comfort mode. If you then switch into sport mode, the idea is that it's a car that lets you grab it by the scruff of the neck and you can make it do what you want it to do.
Right.
So the suspension firms up. We can switch to different brake controls, calibrations. Steering calibration will change. The way we distribute the powertrain torque around the four corners can change. And it's kind of this idea of many cars in one.
Right.
You can have an S-Class in one mode, and you can also have, if you want an M5 type competitor in a different mode. When we're moving again out of this traffic, I can show you.
So the fact is that the acceleration I experienced a little bit earlier was still in comfort mode.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's changed. Does it change the throttle mapping, or does it change the actual total torque?
Both.
Right.
Yeah, both. We've kind of got this internal debate going on at the moment about, well, how different do we want the maps to be?
Right.
There's an argument for making sport as linear as possible. So it's very easy to modulate your torque demand while you're on your favourite canyon road or maybe even on trek. And there's other arguments for, well, maybe we want to offer a bit more differentiation from comfort mode so the customer can kind of feel a real tangible difference between comfort and sport modes. So that's the kind of thing that we're tuning at the moment. Spending a lot of time discussing, going out, driving together, debriefing, discussing what we felt, what we want to feel. It's a fun process.
And I think that's a really important thing to point out here, is that during the development process for any car, whether it be internal combustion, whether it be electric, whether it be something else, the actual design of the vehicle is locked in quite early on. Mm-hmm. Then the primary engineering, the actual nuts and bolts, is locked in fairly early on.
Yeah.
And then you get to a point where a lot of what you guys are doing these days is completely software based.
Mm-hmm.
It's tweaking parameters here and there. And it almost, I hate to make the analogy, but it's almost like a race game, like with Forza or something like that, where you're sitting there and you're tweaking for your perfect race car setup. Mm-hmm. This is kind of what you guys are doing on a much wider, more granular scale, making sure that everything is just tuned in so.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. Peter, our CEO, CTO, has talked before about this jelly setting process where we start off with a blank sheet of paper and anything in the design can move anywhere. It's very fluid at that point. And then as we move on, we start to mature a few things. Nothing is ever completely locked down, but we can continue optimizing, and that's been a really kind of powerful tool and method, really, that's let us overcome some of the challenges or constraints that can traditionally be a pain during vehicle design and development. Just as you described, we've kind of worked the way through the process, and we've designed in these tuning windows, both first of all mechanical and then software. So we still have very kind of last small window remaining where we can tune things like our bushing stiffnesses.
Right.
We can still make a couple of small tweaks to spring rates, anti-roll bar rates, that kind of thing. Most of it is locked down, but we've kind of worked our way through our tuning windows. The tuning windows that remain now, just as you described, are mostly software based. Vehicles these days are, as you know, there are ECUs and controllers all over the vehicle. Nearly everything is ECU controlled now. If we look at something like a steering system or a brake system, kind of traditionally pure hydraulic systems, you have a hydraulic steering gear, a vacuum-based brake booster. Vehicles are moving away from that now for both efficiency reasons and control reasons. Mm-hmm. You can do a lot more with a system when it's controlled by an ECU and it has an electric motor on it. That's really, really advantageous. So we're still tuning those things. We're making little tweaks here. A big advantage there is those tweaks that we make late on, we can introduce, because it's just software,
right,
as people say, we can introduce quite late in the production process. We can even bring those in by over-the-air update.
Right.
So our customers who have their vehicles at home, on their driveway, in their garage, can receive a software update, and they can unlock new functionality, new calibrations. So you can kind of their experience of the vehicle will continue to improve throughout their ownership.
And there's lots of things that this car is hoping to get after launch.
Yeah.
That are not going to be available at launch, but will be rolled out in the future.
Definitely. Yeah.
One question I do have for you, which is, do you ever anticipate customers wanting a track mode for this car?
Potentially.
Because this is a strange beast, because you're going after the S-Class market. Mm-hmm. We've seen the EQS interior this week. We've seen, obviously, what Mercedes-Benz is looking at there. On top of that, we've got the Maybach end of that. And if we continue that evolution through to the S-Class, we, of course, then have the performance variants of the S-Class. Mm-hmm. This feels like it's capable of both the high-end luxury S-Class Maybach segment, but also that insane performance, the AMG kind of spec performance.
Yeah.
But obviously, getting both of those in one car is kind of unusual. So, I mean, do you anticipate people wanting to take these onto the track?
It's an interesting question, definitely. We know that a very small percentage of customers will do that, but some will. And we know that journalists certainly will.
Yeah.
And I think with the performance that the vehicle can offer, it would be a shame to not support that kind of use and allow that experience for the customer. As we've shown in a fair bit of our marketing material so far, we spend a lot of time on track in this vehicle. Because we don't have our own proving ground like a traditional OEM would, we get time wherever we can, whether it's airfields, disused airfields in Northern California that we rent, or different tracks, Laguna Seca, Thunder Hill Raceway. We use those places as proving grounds and do a lot of development there. So it's not all track work, but it does include track work where we're driving hard, we're lapping in a way that somebody would on a track day. The car can do it, definitely. I think we have to make decisions about how we offer the best customer experience. And by that, what I mean is we can throw things at this car to make it a fantastic track car. The powertrain is more than capable. The vehicle is more than capable. But what we might throw in there to give that, to give a kind of track performance benefit, may be detrimental to 99% of normal customers.
Right.
Who want that S-Class type refinement. So I think it's an interesting question, and there will be future variants of this car. I'd say watch this space.
Watch this space. Let's talk about the interior, though. Obviously, I've seen the interior before. I was down with you guys last summer to have a look at kind of the buying experience, the store experience. We've got these wonderful... If it has almost a slightly understated feel to it, it's kind of the... I think last time I was at Lucid, I likened it to... It's the feeling that you get when something is really high quality, but it doesn't have to yell that it's high quality. So it's got that understated premium feel, as opposed to a lot more ostentatious presentations where it might be a little bit smoke and mirrors. The interior in this car is a production interior, isn't it?
It is production intent, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things, fit and finish isn't quite there, but it's prototype on the way towards production.
And this car itself, as you were telling me earlier on, this wasn't made here in California. This was actually made on the Casa Grande line in Arizona, wasn't it? It
was, yeah. Yeah, this was of the first prototype build of vehicle to get on our production line. So yeah, this was built using that machinery, those processes, those people. And then it's moved up here to Northern California where it lives, and we use it for development work, demonstration work. So this is representative of where the last build was, but with production tools, production processes, production people.
Right.
It was kind of important for us to ensure that this build, this Beta 2 build of prototypes, went down the production line as a kind of demonstration that we're real, we mean business, and we're moving into that production phase. It's also incredibly important to kind of prove out those processes. I know I'm stating the obvious and you know this, but it's a very complex manufacturing process to build a vehicle. And there's a lot of work, a lot of development and refinement that goes into that.
Wow, literally refrigerators that had fallen off the back of a lorry.
So yeah,
there we go.
This
wow.
has been used to demonstrate the production processes and also to refine them, mature them, practice them.
And it's amazing how this screen kind of, there's very little air noise at the front of the car.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hearing a little bit at the back, but for a beta prototype, this is very refined in its feeling and in its ride, in its handling.
Mm-hmm.
At least from a passenger point of view, it doesn't feel like it's put together with sellotape. It's got this solid feeling to it, and I think already it's definitely got that high-end premium feel that you would expect of a car of this price.
Yeah. You picked up on a bit of wind noise back there.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's as we said, it's a prototype vehicle from the generation before where we're at now. There are a couple of known little issues back there that we're working with internally. We're working with in partnership with our suppliers to refine. We've come on a long way since this build,
right?
And we'll continue towards production.
And to be clear, people are probably going to say, well, why are you riding in a beta prototype when there are other newer vehicles available? And the answer is, those vehicles are still being developed and tweaked and used and tested, and because you guys are still aiming to be producing cars towards the end of this year, beginning of next, for customers. So it really is all out testing for you now, isn't it?
Yeah, those vehicles are in high demand. So we've got vehicles all across the world and all across the US performing their testing programs with different teams, component owners, system owners, attribute owners, running those cars hard, running them as customers can expect to, making sure that we don't have any failures, making sure that systems are optimized and performing in the way they should. So yeah, we've grabbed this car from the previous generation because it's one of the few cars that we can actually get hold of right now that isn't in very high demand.
Right. But I mean, in terms of for those watching, it feels as refined as the most recent Model S's in terms of feel.
Yeah.
And this is still a prototype. I think that's what I'm getting from this. It feels like it's already at Model S stage, and it's still got some way to go, according to you guys, before you're happy with it.
I'm very glad you said that. Yeah, we're really happy with where it's at now. We know there's opportunity for improvement, so we're absolutely going to grab it. We're going to take it. The attitude we're taking is that when we launch this car, it needs to be the best, because there is already an established EV OEM producing very good cars that are in a similar segment to this. They have an infrastructure in place. They have a brand that is very well known, very well respected. There's also some of the more traditional OEMs stepping into this segment as well now, and I mean, very good cars like the Porsche Taycan.
Yeah.
BMW, Audi will follow suit and step into the segment soon. So we know that unless our car is the best, customers may choose those.
Yeah.
They're more established.
And obviously the
well
Taycan is a direct competitor, as is the EQS. I know the Taycan very well, having spent some time behind the wheel of it, and it, to my mind, is unquestionably the best premium electric sports sedan that you can buy and get hold of today.
Yeah.
And I think that is probably your challenge, is to get the handling and the vehicle dynamics from that, because it just glued itself to the road continuously.
Yeah, it's a fantastic vehicle. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. It turns out Porsche know what they're doing. Who would have thought years of producing incredible sports cars and sports sedans and sports SUVs. They know a thing or two.
So we're still in comfort mode right now.
Yes.
So all of the acceleration that I've experienced to this point has still been in comfort mode. When you are talking about what mode you are expecting people to drive in. Is that what you're considering to be the default mode?
We think so, yeah. It offers the most refined experience. Even though we don't offer full power and torque in comfort mode, it's more than enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I would kind of advise against people using all of it too often on public roads.
Well, also, of course, the tyres are not going to thank you.
Yeah. All this torque, all this power makes a lot of demand on the tyres. Purely from keeping hold of your license and being a responsible road user, I would recommend not using it too frequently. But yes, this is all comfort mode. As you can, I've switched the screen here to our quick control screen. You can see we've got comfort, sport, and super sport modes easily accessible here just with a tap of a button.
And it's nicely raked so that you can actually reach any part of this screen without feeling that you've got to touch up high or down low.
Yeah, we want the customer to be able to quickly change between modes. Maybe they exit the freeway and spot a canyon road. They can just, with a single tap, switch into a different mode. And we want to avoid distracting them from looking at the road ahead. Each of these modes offer us a kind of subtly different drive experience, different levels of power and torque. As I mentioned, we change calibration across many of the chassis modules and the powertrain. So yeah, it's I can switch into sport a little bit when we get out of some of this traffic and show you what the car can do.
So I like the noise that you've kept from the motor. That is the honest to goodness noise. There's no like cabin noise modification going on, is there?
No, it's real. It's funny you mentioned that. Actually, we're doing a lot of work to get rid of some of that.
Right.
Sometimes it's kind of fun and engaging. It's somewhere between a spaceship and a rally car.
Right. And again, this is something actually I liked about the Taycan.
Yeah.
It has the ability to change the noise that you hear in the cabin.
Yeah.
As a way of egging you on or getting you to be more responsible.
Yeah.
I think that noise would probably egg me on. It's the whine that kind of makes you want to go faster.
Yeah, it kind of brings back these memories of straight cut gears, of watching
absolutely.
rally and races. Yeah, there's a lot of work going on to improve the refinement. There's, you mentioned earlier, a bit of wind noise, there's a bit of road noise going on here, there's a little bit of gear whine coming through. All of that is vastly reduced in our next round of prototypes, the ones that we're running about doing development in now. Because we're going after that S-Class type experience, we want it to be quiet. We want as we're doing now, we want occupants to just be able to have a
normal conversation,
conversation at normal volume levels. One of the really cool things is that when you ask for a lot of torque with your right foot, the noise comes back.
Right.
And that's not by accident.
No.
So it still can be, it can still egg you on and spur you on when you really get into it.
Talking about the feel and the feedback, I noticed that the gauge here is lovely and very simple. It's not overly complicated. You've got the speedometer, you've got the range indication. This car wasn't fully charged, I don't think, when we headed out.
No.
And we've still got 340 plus miles of range. And so that kind of gives you a hint at how achievable your estimated EPA range really is. And this is the smaller battery pack option as well. This is not the extended pack, which is bonkers.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy that the standard pack can get you this kind of range.
Right.
Yeah, it's. I don't want to kind of go into too much detail, but it's not really my area of expertise. But as a hopeful potential future customer for this kind of vehicle, I think it really opens up a lot of possibilities. We've looked at EVs before and kind of shied away from them, thinking, well, if I wanted to go on a road trip,
right,
range anxiety may be an issue. I don't know where there's going to be a charger. Maybe there isn't one on my route. But this kind of removes that concern. You can often, it's more miles than you would really want to cover in a day.
Right.
So,
and we're also, let's be honest, this is not an everyday person's car. This is a premium, high-ticket vehicle. it's going to be extremely popular in Asia, where you're going to have a lot of people wanting this car, not as a driver, but as a passenger.
Yeah.
Somebody who has some spare cash, they've got a driver, they want to be taken somewhere and have that same luxurious rear seat passenger feeling. They don't want the driver to say, oh, I'm sorry, man, we need to pull over and charge for 2 hours or 30 minutes or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
They want to be able to make that long distance trip without needing to stop. I think this is going to be very popular on the East Coast with a lot of the seaboard commuters, you know, going from DC up to New York and back again.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be really popular in parts of China for the same reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's going to be very popular in the Middle East as well for the same reason. That concept of this is a very luxurious car. The ride, as I've noted already, is very impressive for a beta car.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, you know, rear seat passengers, you've got all that extra leg room.
Yeah.
It's got a long wheelbase feel to it, but it's not a long wheelbase.
No, it's a very reasonable wheelbase. It's kind of in line with the segment. It's if you think kind of Tesla Model S, BMW 5 Series, it's that kind of size on the outside. But as I mentioned, it has the inside space and feel of an S-Class, of a segment above. So yeah, we think it's a very compelling offering, really. It's a luxurious, spacious, refined sedan. It can also be a kind of very engaging driver's car when you want it to be, and it has the range, and all within an exterior package that is still very easy to navigate around the city, very easy to park. It's we believe and hope others agree that it's a very compelling package.
Tell me about the actual engineering process. You've been involved with this car and the development of this car for some time.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me what you think has been the biggest challenge for Lucid, and maybe one of the biggest surprises that you've had from the development process, where the cars kind of, or the team have exceeded what you thought was possible?
Yeah. Probably the biggest challenges come from being on the cutting edge of new technology. We obviously have very capable, very, very talented engineering teams. But despite engineers being the best in the world, you encounter issues during development. We're designing new systems, we're doing things that haven't been done before. So with that comes discoveries, good and bad, and you have to overcome them and produce a product at the end of it all. So with so many systems and components coming together on a vehicle to make the end product, and so much development work being required to get there, anytime you encounter an issue, it could potentially prevent other people from doing the work they need to do. So we've had to be incredibly integrated, the way we work together as teams that might traditionally be kind of siloed and working on their own things and not really talking to each other. That doesn't work here. We can't do that, and if we do that, we won't succeed. So we use a very different method where, at least up until the pandemic, everybody sits in the same building. We're all within about 30 feet of each other. So it just facilitates that regular conversation, breaks down the barriers to communication. It's a fairly unique working process, but it's been fantastic. It's allowed us to overcome issues that may have otherwise been big blockers. It's allowed us to overcome them more quickly, and it kind of facilitates innovation that can't normally happen in a delivery environment. Typically, you're in a different company, you're so concerned with hitting your deadlines that there is little appetite for being adventurous.
Mm-hmm.
But the way we do it, because you're in such close communication all the time, it kind of frees you up to try things. And we'll work on a plan A and a plan B and a plan C at the same time.
Right.
Find which one works best, and kind of be creative and innovative with new systems, new technologies, new ideas. That's been really, really powerful.
It sounds almost like an agile, a scrum methodology from a management perspective, which is kind of funny because that's what we use at our company as well.
Yeah. It's I think it's a bit of Silicon Valley, and it's a bit of a kind of software type approach to product engineering. I think it's also a bit of kind of Peter's ways of doing things differently, and trying to break down the traditional obstacles.
Break it down into the smallest parts that you can then move around and do with what you need to.
Yeah.
What do you think your customers are going to enjoy the most out of this?
It's a tricky one, because it's hard to pick out any kind of singular thing. What I'm most excited about seeing the customer reaction to, and what I hope they'll enjoy the most, is the fact that it's bringing together the best of many different types of vehicle. You've got the ride and refinement of the S-Class, you've got the kind of super sedan, super saloon, sports type handling of something with an M or an AMG badge. You've got fantastic range that you may normally get from a diesel hatchback. It's that kind of range. We've also got cutting edge infotainment systems. So we've announced a bit recently about collaboration with Dolby. There are other things in the works as well. So it's a very kind of entertaining, immersive experience for the driver, the passenger, other occupants.
But it's not so high tech that it's going to scare someone off who may not be super into tech.
No, it's a very approachable, very usable car, and it's definitely not a car that's exclusively for people who know everything about cars. It's a car for everybody, and admittedly everybody who can afford the price point initially, but it's designed to be a very approachable vehicle for everybody to enjoy.
And of course, you've been developing the platform on which this car is based. It's not just the Air Sedan that you're developing, you're refining the platform for future work.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's we're kind of finding that balance between optimizing for a single vehicle and getting the best range, the best aerodynamic drag coefficient, the best ride and handling, the best performance, but at the same time looking forward to future products and taking a bit of a platform approach, trying to not bake in a lot of the compromises that traditionally come with platform engineering, but also being sensible about, well, what's the second vehicle and the third vehicle and the fourth vehicle we're going to produce off this? What's the most cost-effective way of doing that? There's plenty in the works coming off this platform.
Do you feel that what is represented here is a vehicle that is, let me see if I can rephrase that, that's not a very good way of doing it. So Lucid is truly a multinational company. It's got people from all the major OEMs and some of your competitors all working on this car.
Yeah.
Do you feel that this is kind of just a representation of all of those different influences that have seeped into the Lucid Air to make it what it is? Or do you feel that this is a car that you're all now following a singular vision to develop?
We have a lot of inputs from a lot of people from a lot of very diverse backgrounds, which I think is really, really valuable. So as we said, we're designing a vehicle that's to be very approachable by all customers, all users, no matter where they're from, what their background is. So we have an ethos in the company where everybody's view is important and everybody is listened to. And we have a lot of empowerment in our development process where the component owners, system owners, attribute owners have a lot of say in the design of their bits.
Right.
And a lot of say in the way the vehicle ends up. However, we do have a singular direction. Our CEO, CTO, he has a very clear idea of where this product needs to be, what it needs to do, how it needs to feel. So that keeps everybody on a path towards where we need to get to, and that kind of keeps us all heading in the right direction, keeps us all working efficiently, and at the end of it, will give us and is giving us a cohesive product. It is important to make sure that the person designing the feel of your window switches is working closely and working in the same direction as the person who's designing the feel of the volume knob. Everything needs to be cohesive across the vehicle. We don't want kind of disparate systems doing their own thing, and we do that through communication and through the direction of our leadership.
I'm really enjoying the ride. It is a very, very cool ride. The only thing we haven't done is the sport mode, which we should probably do, because if we don't, then someone will go, well, you didn't do the sport mode.
Yeah,
like, okay.
Let me get off this boring road and get somewhere more interesting.
And that is a Lucid Air beta prototype accelerating. So there you have it. That's the Lucid Air Dream Edition beta prototype. This car feels like it's ready to go on sale today. But Lucid says, no, there are still some tweaks to be made. And I've got a lot of respect for a company that can do that can produce a vehicle which other car companies would go, yeah, it's ready to go, let's start making it, let's ship it. But Lucid's waiting. Lucid wants to make sure this car is as perfect as it can possibly be before it reaches its initial customers. And I've got a lot of respect for that. I've also got a lot of respect for David for letting me come along as a passenger on this drive. He took me out far longer than we had originally planned, and I had a very enjoyable discussion with him both on and off camera after the cameras decided to give up the ghost. Additionally, I just want to apologize for some of the audio quality in this video. We had some issues with our wireless lav mics. We've been on the road and recording, and the wireless receiver pack decided to stop working during this drive, so we've had to rely on our GoPro audio, so I'm sorry if it's not up to our usual standard. I'd love to know what you think to this car in the comments below. Are you interested? Are you able to afford to buy one? Are you interested in having one? Is this a dream car that you think is worthy of going on teenagers' bedroom walls, if that's still in fact a thing? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks to the amazing people who made this trip possible. Obviously, all of the car companies who allowed me to come and film while I've been in Southern California and now in the Bay Area, but also to those of you who helped donate to make this trip possible, whether that was through Ko-fi, Bitcoin, Patreon, or just watching the ads on the channel. We are trying to grow the Transport Evolved channel. We still need to keep growing. We need a video editor. I am going to take my time going back to Portland now because I am exhausted, but there will be more great content from this channel very soon. Thanks for joining me, and as always, keep evolving.